Hey, what is going on, everyone? In today's video, we're going to be talking about why Kate Bishop's passive is bugged. I have a lot of exhibits to talk about here today, or pieces of evidence to suggest why she's not working as her passive is described. No surprise there. We've had a lot of problems in the past with kits not lining up basically with how the text is, and then them going back and changing things based on what's actually happening in the game and not actually honoring what they were supposed to do. Specifically in this, we're taking point at this part here in Kate Bishop's passive where it says, on death of a Young Avenger ally, or when a Young Avenger ally drops below 50% health, attack a random enemy for 200% piercing plus apply blind and slow. Now, this is a very important part of her kit, and the reason why I'm doing this video is not to, try and make this team a stronger war defense team. Trust me, it's not. It's really just to make sure that everything's fair, that what we're supposed to be getting is actually what we're getting. What's advertised is what we're getting. And a lot of the times in Marvel Strike Force, it isn't. So this currently is only working in war defense. It also doesn't work when she targets herself. And I want to share this in regards to Squirrel Girl, that she has the exact same call out when it comes to Young Avenger ally tag, for various thresholds since the rework. And it does actually work on herself. So I have a handful of exhibits, a handful of evidence pieces to suggest why this should be working differently and why it isn't, and why this needs to get fixed. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Alright, and before we get to any actual video evidence footage here, I want to take a quick look at Squirrel Girl. We took a quick look at Kate Bishop in the beginning in the intro there. I want to share that her passive has a very similar call out in terms of the wording and the text as Kate Bishop. So when a Young Avenger ally drops below 75, 50%, 25% health, she gets these kind of bumps for the team. And this also works on herself. Now, obviously, this is not restricted to war defense, otherwise it would say so, and neither is Kate Bishop's kit, and that's not working properly. So there's two things here. Kate Bishop's passive is not working outside of war defense properly, and it's also not working when she herself is dropping below 50% health in this instance. So all of this does work on Squirrel Girl, so I don't see why this shouldn't also extend to Kate Bishop and her passive. So first of all, I want to go to the strike time. This is the strike time with Kate Bishop. I kind of basically skimmed through this a little bit to find, well, actually I watched most of it, to find out some of the relevant information. And so I want to jump ahead a little bit here to 440. It's around the 440 mark anyways here. Where they do talk about Kate Bishop in a little bit more detail. So this is Byron Melsack. He is the developer, one of the ones behind the Young Avengers. So I want to listen to what he has to say here.
Cool, and went from 60% of their health to 0.
So Cerebro actually, follows up and asks, if in situations where a team member dropped below 50% and then possibly died in a big hit as well, that Kate Bishop would fire back twice or more.
Does that trigger twice, or does it only trigger once?
She would attack twice, and both conditions were met.
Okay, so once for the 50, for going below 50, and then once for being knocked out.
Now, I don't know if this is too much of a stretch here. He doesn't say specifically whether or not this part was designed for war defense only. I went back over the part where they talk about the passive. Obviously it doesn't have a call out to war defense, yet currently with some of the footage that we'll take a look at, it only actually occurs in war defense. And I think this is a little bit of a problem just for transparency's sakes, because for me it's just really important that what we see on the character kit is what we're getting, and it otherwise it should have said in war defense do all of this. That aside, though, I think that the passive should also activate when she herself drops below 50%. Now I want to fast forward a little bit to 917 around here. This is where they talk about the viability of Kate Bishop elsewhere in the game and the Young Avengers more broadly.
Great on war defense. Is there any other game modes where you could possibly see Kate Bishop, Echo, and the other Young Avengers shining?
Well, the primary goal was to make the Young Avengers a top-tier war defense team. The fact that they are a full team with synergies would make them a welcome addition to your Blitz roster. Additionally, Kate Bishop being a tech character would be useful if you wanted to help fill out your tech raid team.
Oh, great. I know players have been asking for more tech characters lately, so awesome.
You know, the players have been asking for more tech characters, so the reason why I brought this up is because, well, I would love for Kate Bishop to work properly outside of War Defense in these game modes. And it's not just Blitz or Doom Raid Tech. Young Avengers are viable in Avengers Tower. I know that probably by the time you're watching this, that's over. But, you know, they do, to some extent, even on the offense, counter Infinity Watch because it really obliterates, you know, Nebula's assists and things like that. So if they're not working, especially Kate Bishop, if she's not working to her full extent in other game modes, that really debilitates her and her overall usefulness. So that's really important, you know, because I have been trying to use her in Doom Raid Tech, and then I was thinking, well, there's been many instances where my Kate has dropped below 50% health. She is gaining the evades as properly, but she's not doing the attack, which should ping other characters, and then also trigger a blind, which in Doom Raid Tech would actually be quite significant for there. So I would like to see some adjustments and fixes on this to get what we should be actually getting. Now, moving on from this one, I want to go to this video here from Hyper. This was posted on Reddit, actually. And so, yes, there's actually some decent stuff on Reddit from time to time. And I found this video, and it kind of highlights at least the Young Avengers in Blitz mode, why it doesn't work. So let's give a look at this one as well. Basically, it's his Young Avengers team versus an Eternals team, because I think this best kind of showcases this. And you can see here when they go in, it sounds not really that important. But here you can see that Icarus is about to blow up, and boom, boom. You can see here that, okay, all 5 of them are under 50% health. Actually, in fact, a lot of them are critical. And Squirrel Girl goes off, you know, buffing everyone, as she should. Everyone gets the buffs from Squirrel Girl. And no Kate Bishop counter. Or passive trigger attack, rather. So that should have triggered 5 times, and it didn't do any of that. Now, that's pretty interesting. So this means that her passive is at least not usable outside of War Defense currently, which obviously, you know, is not stated. You know, so this alone is a problem. You know, and so, yeah, that is an issue. There is another exhibit that I want to draw your attention to. This is another video done by one of my moderators, Edward Dixon. Thank you for doing this, by the way. That's quite helpful. So this was actually a War Defense practice against my partner's Young Avengers team, who did actually, you know, raise Young Avengers alongside myself. Yeah, I know, it's War Defense team. But, you know, this gets to some of the points of the character anyways for Kate Bishop more broadly. So I want to start the video actually at closer, a little bit further up actually. So a lot of this is just the starting damage. This is kind of the more important stuff, I think, here. And so right here, you can see that Kate Bishop on her own actually drops below 50% health, just herself, and she does not fire back. Even on War Defense, she doesn't fire back, right? So this should happen at least there, but it does not. So once again, like I said, Squirrel Girl, I showed you this earlier on. Squirrel Girl and Kate Bishop have very similar text descriptions, you know, as far as Young Avenger Ally. And normally when that's called out, that also includes themselves when it comes to team passives. So in this case, if it's for stats, normally it would say something like yourself or themself and Young Avenger allies in this case. So, but that's not what we're talking about, though. We're talking about triggers in terms of, you know, abilities in this case, you know, things like Squirrel Girl and Kate Bishop's passive. So yes, this is a bit of a problem. Now, I will also say that this does work properly, at least in War Defense only, for triggering multiple times. So this took quite a long time, maybe because my teams are just super big. It was hard to find this to actually get it done. Now, if you actually jump ahead to a certain point here, I forget, where are we at? There is, I think it's about 2 minutes in. I think Doom blows up. Doom blows up somewhere here in the time platform. Oops, sorry for that blinding moment here. And then he does get his special off here. And the main intention was just to see how many times would Kate Bishop actually fire off in War Defense anyways. It seems like she doesn't do it at all outside of War Defense. But here, with the blowing up here. So, Squirrel Girl, Chavez, and Miss Marvel are less than 50%. Echo bit it, which means she also crossed the threshold of 50% and died. And so what's interesting though is at least she does fire 5 times. 1, 2, 3. And you can see by the way that she fires. She does have an animation. If you slow things down a little bit, you can see it a little bit better. She stomps her foot and then fires. So it does go off a handful of times. So that part is working properly on the ward defense. Now, outside of that, it is not. And that is part of the problem. So going back, and I'm still on Squirrel Girl apparently. Going back to Kate Bishop, this is where we should see some fixes. Because I think that for her to be more widely, her and her team, frankly, because this is a huge part of her kit. And this entire bit of the passive here is very important to her viability elsewhere. And if we want to continue to use this team or this character in Doomray Tech or in future Grand Tournament, let's say, you know, because I think there's actually offensive potential here for this team because they're pretty good. Because with Squirrel Girl, that often the members of the Young Avengers are going up and below 50% health. So this would actually trigger quite a lot. And so Blind and Slow is super important. These are critical debuffs in things like Doomray Tech on her own. So this should trigger by herself. This should also trigger outside of war defense for the rest of the team for other game modes. This is something that we need to see fixed. So this does work properly in war defense, so don't see this as, oh, Boilon's trying to get this team to be better on war defense. This is not the aspect that I'm trying to discuss or try to get changed. I'm trying to get fairness. I want to get what is actually described to us, and that's what I always do with characters when they're bugged. I always want to get what we actually see. Now, my concern is that they're actually just going to change that to reflect what's going on in game. They've done this before, where they just do kit description changes to match what's actually happening. In this case, if they do that, I'm going to get really angry because not only have I invested in this, but it's something that flat out has been said that, you know, it was never suggested that it would be war defense only. And this, and Byron even actually went as far as saying that this character would be viable in Doomray Tech. And I think without this passive, I don't think she is as much. You know, as much as I try to use her there, I think we need this. We absolutely need this part of the passive to be working properly in order for her to be more viable and elsewhere. So that, and also in Dark Dimension, if you wanted to possibly take her in Dark Dimension Global, just a random thought there, but if you wanted to, you know, this is part of what her kit would need in order to be more viable more broadly. So that's the end of this video. Let me know what you think about Kate Bishop. Have you invested in her? The reason why I'm doing this is because her Blitz is upcoming soon, and I just want people to be aware of what's working and what's not with this character. So that's it. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay sane. And I'll see you all later. Boilon, signing out.